I have been told the name of the place to which we were to fly, and I was to Rick the pilot. At first, we flew straight ahead. Then the pilot turned right, then left. I had lost all sense of direction. Our own aerodrome. I didn't care a bit where I was, and when the pilot thought it was time to go down, I was disappointed. Already I was down the hours to the time we could start again. These words were from a young man talking about his first flight experience in the spring of 1915. Saw young man's first flight with the Die Fliegertruppe der Deutschen Kaiserreiches, later known as the Luftstreitkräfte, a cavalryman, a chance finding of a downed plane that sparked his interest in flying. Later writing his own transfer, a quote from this transfer is, "I have not gone lower to collect cheese and eggs, but for another purpose." His transfer granted this young man the ability to join the flying service, and at the end of May of 1915, training as an aerial observer at Grobenheim, he was a member of the 69 Flying Squadron as an observer of reconnaissance missions along the Eastern Front. This was his first aerial gig of the war. Soon he transferred to Ostern Flying, where he flew with his friend George Zimmer, the one who eventually taught this young man to fly solo. This young man, known to the world as Baron Manfred von Richthofen, had a chance meeting with Germany's pioneering ace, Oswald Boelcke, which prompted Richthofen to do solo pilot training. He then convinced his brother Lothar to transfer to the Fliegertruppe himself. Then Richthofen joined the Kampfschwadron 2, the number 2 fighter squadron, flying a 2-seat Albatros C3. Originally thought to be a below average pilot, certainly struggled control of his aircraft, crashing during his first flights at the controls. Though a poor, pathetic start, he rapidly became the true master of his warbird. He then joined back up with Oswald Boelcke in summer of 1916. Boelcke was searching for pilots for his newly formed Jasta 2 fighter squadron. Richthofen was selected. Unfortunately, a few months later, Boelcke was killed during a mid-air collision with friendly planes. Richthofen ended up witnessing this event in October of 1916. A month earlier saw Richthofen score his first kill over Cambrai, France. Lieutenant Lionel Morris and observer Tommy Reeves. Richthofen stated in his autobiography that he gave them beautiful stones on their graves in respect for those being airmen themselves. At the same time, Richthofen started receiving his ordered cups that had his stamped victories on each cup. This stopped at 60 when silver was becoming short in Germany. Richthofen's flight style observed the lessons learned and taught to him by Oswald Boelcke, which are stated in the Dicta Boelcke. This was taught to his squads, thus ensuring success for his pilots. Not as flashy or erratic flyer like his brother Lothar or other pilots like Ace Werner Voss, Richthofen was noted for his marksmanship and being a very tactful squadron commander. He preferred to attack with the sun to his back, while other members of his squadron covered him. The next aerial adversary may have been his most famous that he would face. He considered this man the British Boelcke, Major Lenoir Hawker. Richthofen claimed victory in his Albatros D2, switching to the Albatros D3 in January 1917, scoring 2 kills before the plane's lower wing spar suffered damage, forcing Richthofen to revert back to a D2 or a Halberstadt D2. It was around this time he suffered a loss to Edwin Bimbo. Though Richthofen was able to safely land Halberstadt field and was fight another day. Finally, Richthofen was able to fly his Albatros D3 again, scoring 22 victories in a consecutive quick session before switching to the new Albatross D5 in June 1917. Next was his iconic Fokker DR-1 triplane, his most famous warbird. But his first true red aircraft was his Albatross D3, the bird that sealed his iconic name and his reputation. His 16th kill saw Rick Tobin receiving the Pour le Mérite, known to history as the Blue Max, Germany's highest military honor at the time. He then assumed command of Jasta II, a group of highly skilled pilots, some being the elite class of the German fighter squads. One such pilot was Ernst Udet, who became commander of the Luftwaffe in World War II. Richthofen's bright red scheme was taken into effect at this time. Jasta II soon became known for their red schemes, and it was a telltale sign you were facing Jasta II in the air if you've seen this red. April of 1917, known as Bloody April, saw Richthofen shoot down 22 aircraft, giving him a war total at the time of 52. He then became the new commander of the larger fighter wing formation, very mobile wings who could move to different areas of the front with relative ease. His new command of Jagdgeschwader 1. It was actually composed of squadrons 4, 6, 10, and 11. Forever to be known as the Red Baron's Flying Circus. And yes, this is the first time I speak of his new nickname, which the world will forever know Richthofen as. The Red Baron, due to his use of bright red on his warbirds' color schemes in battle. He was known as a brilliant tactician, enforcing Boca's tactics. He led by example and force of will, not inspiration. Known as somewhat distant, unemotional, and humorless, this personification has been questioned, and due to some of his colleagues stating otherwise. His basic rule of thumb for pilots is aim for the pilot, not the plane. And in a two-seater, aim for the observer first. Eliminate the gun, then eliminate the plane. As famous as the Red Baron was in Germany, he was still only a Rittmeister or captain performing duties of a lieutenant colonel. Germans were promoted by schedule, not battlefield performance. With it also a rule in the German army was for a son to not hold rank higher than the father, and Richthofen's father being a reserve major. This tends to lead me to question how this rank system motivated members of the military to go beyond the call of duty. Now, putting pride for serving your country aside, this military way of promotion doesn't seem to inspire the best of its officers, offering nothing in way of tangible award for being a brilliant or successful leader on the battlefield, or above it, as I see. But soon the Red Baron's success was hampered by injury when on July 6, 1917, while flying against fighters of the RFC's 20 Squadron near Verick, Belgium, he suffered a serious head wound that caused temporary blindness. He had the wherewithal to land his bird in friendly territory, surviving yet another attack. Multiple operations were performed to remove the bone fragments from the impact area on his head. Though returning to service against doctor's orders on July 25, 1917, he was only back for a little while. He had to take a leave of absence from September 5th to October 23rd. It seemed his wound has begun to have effects on him. For the Red Baron, for he started suffering from post-flight nausea, headaches, and sudden mood swings, all side effects of what we now know as PCS, post-concussion syndrome. These symptoms would be a heavy burden on a frontline fighter pilot who needs total concentration and quick thinking to survive. I believe this directly contributed to his death, which we will discuss in a few moments. Before the end, I'd like to visit the beginning. Manfred von Richthofen was born May 2nd, 1892 in Kleinsberg, Breslau, into a prominent Prussian family. His father, Major Albert Philipp Karl Julius Freyer von Richthofen, and his mother, Kunigunde von Schnickfuss und Neudorf. I hope I didn't butcher those names too bad. He also had an elder sister named Elsie and 2 younger brothers. His family moved to Schweidnitz, where Manfred enjoyed and excelled in horse riding and hunting. Also, an accomplished gymnast, he was very good on the parallel bars, winning quite a few awards. As far as his hunting went, he and his brothers Lothar and Boko hunted wild boar, elk, deer, and numerous birds. Manfred spent a little time in school in Schweidnitz after being educated at home, but in year time, he attended the Volstadt Military School at the age of 11. After cadet training at the Grob Leckerfeld British Habitätsanstalt in 1909, he was given the opportunity and did join the Uhlenen Regiment Kaiser Alexander III von Russland, number 1, a Russian Uhlan cavalry division, also known as the 1st West Prussian Division, where he was assigned to the Regiment 3 Escadron, the number 3 Squadron. This led to him being a cavalry reconnaissance officer on the Eastern and Western fronts. Though the intro of trench warfare outdated his regiment, most of them being transferred to field runners and telephone operators. This led Richthofen to transfer to something less boring and on the battlefront, not in the rear. With this, he then joined the Die Fliegertruppen der Deutschen Kaiserreiches, later known as the Luftstreitkräfte, the World War I precursor to World War II's Luftwaffe. Now, during the Red Baron's convalescent leave in 1917, he finished his autobiographical sketch, Der Rote Kampfflieger, the Red Battle Flyer. Unfortunately, this book shows heavy evidence of censorship and editing, with inserts written in that contradicted the Red Baron's feelings on a few subjects. Though I recommend reading the English translation by J. Ellis Barker, though the Red Baron was not able to read a revised version of his book, he was on record scoffing at the book, stating it was too insolent and he was no longer that kind of person, which begs the question, did his head injury have any effect on his outlook of his autobiography, even though it was heavily censored and edited? Although he did state the book made him out arrogant and boastful, not conveying his true attitude towards the war. Young men tend to be arrogant, a quality prevalent in fighter pilots, but his true displeasure with the book tends to hint towards heavy editing by someone other than himself. A shame, really, since we do not know exactly how he felt or how his attitude changed. Upon his return to the flying circus, he refused to accept a ground job, stating, "Every poor fellow in the trenches must do his duty. Therefore, I will continue to fly in combat." Baron von Richthofen had become part of the hero worship ideal. He was such a living legend, the German military hierarchy did not want him killed in combat due to the moral effect it could have on German people and the German military machine. German propaganda even spread fake rumors saying the British were raising squads just to down the Red Baron as an automatic Victoria Cross to any Entente pilot that could down him, etc., with Richthofen possibly believing some of the propaganda as stated in some of his correspondence. The Red Baron's subsequent death is subject to some speculation, although the Royal Air Force's number 209 Squadron's patch shows a red eagle falling, symbolizing the fall of the Red Baron. The last flight of the Red Baron ended sometime after 11 a.m. over Morincourt Ridge, somewhere near the Somme River. He had been in hot pursuit of a Sopwith camel piloted by the 209 Squadron's Wilfred Reed Wap May. at a very uncharacteristic low level. May had just fired on the Red Baron's cousin, Wolfram von Richthofen. The Red Baron fired upon May, who broke away under the Red Baron's pursuit at low level over the Somme River. At this time, May's flight commander, Canadian Roy Brown, swooped down to help May, diving steeply, firing on Richthofen and having to pull up hard to avoid hitting the ground. The Red Baron had adjusted to avoid this attack and then resumed pursuit of May. This action of the Red Baron, which led to his subsequent death, screams target fixation and or anger in May firing on his cousin, and both could be due to his earlier head wounds. For these tactics were opposite of what he taught and preached, opposite of what the Dicta Boca preached, and the Red Baron always adhered to these, and at this time he did not. It was proven a single .303 bullet hit Richthofen in the chest, a near instantaneous death. His aircraft stalled, then dived, hitting the ground in a field close to the village of Vaux-sur-Somme. This area, defended by the Australian Imperial Force, is where gunners like George Ridgway saw the crash and ran over, finding the Red Baron dead. The nearest Entente air unit took possession of the Red Baron's corpse, and scavenger hunters ended up basically destroying his Fokker D1. No definitive answer has ever been found to who actually killed the Red Baron. The RAF credited Roy Brown with the kill, but most historians, ballistics experts, etc., believe he was killed by an AA gun. Post-mortem shows the bullet penetrated under the Baron's right underarm and exiting at the left nipple, a slightly upper angle. Brown's attack was from the behind and above and the left side. Furthermore, the Red Baron kept up pursuit for more than 2 minutes after Roy Brown fired upon him. Now, one theory was Gunner Sergeant Cedric Popkin made the kill with his AA gun, firing on the Baron 2 separate times. The first thought to be straight ahead, and the second supposedly at the right angle. But a letter from him to a historian in 1935, where he states to this historian, he shot the Baron flying straight at him, which would be an impossible shot, and contradicted what everyone thought. A few other possible gunners have been brought up in this debate, but no proof has ever been found. A few theories have been given as what led to Richthofen's death. Now, my opinion is it was a combination of things, supporting most of the theories in one way or another. I believe he was suffering from post-concussion syndrome. He had all the symptoms. And this would not only lead to making bad decisions and affect his judgment with violent mood swings, it could have enhanced and or caused him to suffer from cumulative combat stress, which was also a factor for many people in the war. This would also contribute to making bad decisions he would normally not make. Another factor was the wind and speed on that day of the dogfight. The prevailing wind was an uncommon 25 miles per hour easterly rather than 25 miles per hour westerly, which the winds were almost always westerly in this area. And this means that if Richthofen was traveling at a pursuit speed of 99 miles per hour westward, add in the wind speed, he would be traveling around 120 miles per hour rather than his typical 75, which would be into a headwind. This could have easily seen him cross enemy lines without his knowledge. Factor in the PCS and CCS, I doubt he ever realized he was in enemy airspace at low level, very much in AA's gun range. Furthermore, he could have been enraged at May for firing at his cousin Wolfram, and the Red Baron was also suffering from target fixation. This is just my theory on factors that caused the Baron's subsequent death, not who killed him. And in my opinion, he unwittingly did all the wrong tactics, essentially committing a kamikaze act to die on May. The Red Baron's burial was a fitting end to his amazing life, and it showed the chivalric nature of all Army Air Corps who believe themselves to be knights of the sky. Number 3 Squadron AFC's commander, Major David Blake, who was responsible for Richthofen's body, who garnered great respect for the flying ace, gave Baron Manfred von Richthofen a burial with full military honors in the cemetery of the village Bertangles near Amiens. 6 members of Number 3 Squadron were the pallbearers, where honor guard from the squad's other ranks fired the salute. Many other Entente squads presented wreaths, one which stated, "To our gallant and worthy foe." His body has been moved several times, finally coming to rest at a family grave plot in Suffenhof of Wiesbaden. And it's truly amazing that the Red Baron's body seemed to move around as much as his body did in life as his death. Truly amazing. But finally, he found his resting place with his family. The Red Baron has been credited to have had 80 kills which are well documented and as such not under contestation. There were claims his kill count was over 100, but history keeps to the well documented 80, making him the ace of aces of World War I. Some question the Red Baron's ability, stating German early air superiority contributed to his success. But I argue, though, he did not start in the Air Corps at the first of the war. In 1915, he was learning to be a pilot, and most of his many victories came later in the war against a numerically superior enemy, with many of their fighter aircraft being superior than his own. So you naysayers can, as the dude in Texas Chainsaw Massacre says, lick my plate, because Baron Manfred von Richthofen was a true fighter ace and teacher of fighter aces. Many honors and awards were given to Baron Manfred von Richthofen, the first here being from the German state, and they are as follows: the Prussian Military Pilot Badge, the Honor Goblet for the winner in air combat, Iron Cross First Class and Second Class, the Duke Carl Edward Medal with sword clasp, the Knight's Cross of the Royal House Order of Hohenzollern with swords, the Pour le Mérite, the Blue Max, Knight's Cross of the Military Order of St. Henry, Order of the Red Eagle Third Class with crown and swords, Knight's Cross of the Saxe-Ernestine House Order First Class with crown and swords, Bavarian Military Merit Order Fourth Class with swords, Knight's Cross of the Württemberg Military Merit Order, the Hessian Bravery Medal, Cross for Faithful Service, the Lippe War Merit Cross Second Class, Wound Badge Third Class, Hanseatic Crosses of the 3 Hanseatic cities, Bremen, Hamburg, and Lübeck. Now, Austria-Hungary also gave him awards. They were as follows: Order of the Iron Cross, Crown Third Class, Austro-Hungarian Military Merit Cross Third Class with war decorations, Field Pilot Badge. The Ottoman Empire also gave him some. There are the Iron Crescent, the Silver Imtiaz Medal, and the Silver Legat Medal. The Kingdom of Bulgaria gave him the Military Order for Bravery Fourth Class. Many later squadrons were named in the Red Baron's honor, and in 1968 he was inducted into the International Air and Space Hall of Fame. Quite a few movies have portrayed their version of the Red Baron, as well as the Red Baron being in comic and TV as the arch enemy of a certain big black-nosed pup who rode his doghouse into battle with the Red Baron. Yes, Snoopy had quite a few battles with the Red Baron, and I'm proud to say many years ago my stepson asked me to help him design a plane out of ordinary household materials for a school project. When we were done, we had a Sopwith Camel built out of a large Burger King cup. He did the work, I just helped him design it. And we named it Snoopy's Revenge. It still sits at his elementary school's wall of fame. This was the first time I told him a military story, the story of the Red Baron, sparking an interest in military aviation that he still has to this day. The Red Baron, Baron Manfred von Richthofen, was one of the best pilots during aviation's pioneering age. Just a few years from the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, the Red Barons and pilots and their observers at this time had no ejection seats, parachutes, or even an enclosed cockpit. The wind in their face, bullets flying by. They were honored to serve their country, and their honor and chivalry that had long since passed in many other military divisions. And this sense of honor carries on today with many aircrew around the world. Many still study the Red Baron's tactics, many which are still prevalent in air dogfighting today. I salute you, Baron Manfred von Richthofen. Though you would have been my enemy, you demonstrated bravery, honor, respect, forging a path in the skies many would eventually follow. The World War I's ace of aces, the Red Baron, Baron Manfred von Richthofen. This is Big Duke 6 from the MAG channel on CoolKegs Productions. Thank you until next time.